The diesel wouldn't turn over. 15th crank in the dark, January cold seizing every moving part, -12 on the barn thermometer. My breath hung white in the truck cab. Finally the engine caught, shuddering like an old dog. I'd invited 8 neighbors for New Year's. Small gathering. Miranda stood by the potbelly stove in my living room, accepting condolences. Pete Donovan asked her which pasture held the spring calves come April. She smiled, touched the wedding photo on the mantel. The one with trees? Wrong. South pasture is open grassland. Has been for 70 years. I said nothing. Poured coffee. The propane heater hissed. Wood smoke thick in the room. Everyone's coats smelled like wet wool and cattle. Pete caught my eye. Held it a moment too long. The guests left by 9. At 10 the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Holloway? A woman's voice, shaking. This is Emily Thornton. I photographed your son's friend's wedding in 2019. I need to see you about those photos Miranda showed you. Something's very wrong with them. Emily's studio was downtown, 3rd floor of a converted warehouse. I drove the 40 minutes in pre-dawn dark, arrived at 7. She met me at the door, coffee brewing somewhere inside. Old paper smell, ink from printers. She'd set up her computer already. 2 monitors, wedding photos loaded. I almost didn't call. She sat, gestured to the chair beside her. But if someone did this to my father, I'd want to know. The photos looked professional. Michael in his dress uniform, Miranda in white, both smiling. I'd seen them 100 times since she'd shown up at Christmas. Watch the shadows. Emily zoomed in. See his? Falls left to right. Hers, right to left. Different light sources, different times a day. My hands went cold. She pulled up another window. Numbers, codes, technical data. I didn't fully understand. Metadata doesn't lie, Mr. Holloway. This image, your son, was taken August 2019 in Austin, Texas. Camera ID matches a wedding I shot there. This image, Miranda, was taken August 2020 in Sacramento, California. Different camera entirely. Someone combined them digitally. The heating vent rattled, traffic noise through the window. My coffee had gone cold in my hand. Your son's image is from a friend's wedding. I remember him. Nice kid. Laughed a lot. He was a groomsman. She pulled up the original. Michael with 3 other young men, all in uniform. Someone cropped him out, paired him with her photo from a completely different wedding. Different state. Different year. You're certain? I'd testify to it in court. She handed me a flash drive. Everything's here. Metadata. Original files. Technical analysis. Mr. Holloway, if the photos are fake, did your son ever even meet her? I drove back to the ranch. Sun up by the time I pulled into the driveway. Derek's car was there. Silver Audi, California plates. He'd shown up a week ago. Friend helping with the estate, Miranda had said. They were in the kitchen when I came through the door, coffee made, acting comfortable in my house. Frank? Miranda smiled, poured a cup without asking if I wanted one. Derek and I were just discussing the water shares. There's an agricultural company interested in purchasing them. Modernize the operation, get better returns. Derek extended his hand. I didn't take it. He lowered it slowly. Water rights are worth $400,000, I said, separate from the land. Exactly. Derek's voice smooth, professional. Which is why it makes sense to 800 acres, I continued. 3rd generation. My grandfather homesteaded in 1947. Miranda touched my arm. Soft gesture, concerned. Frank, we're not suggesting selling the ranch, just optimizing unused resources. The water shares sit idle. With Michael gone, don't you want to simplify things? The propane heater kicked on, loud click and hum. Outside, cattle load, feeding time. I hadn't done morning rounds yet. Who are you? The question came out quieter than I'd intended. I'm your daughter-in-law. She held up her left hand. Wedding ring caught the light. I know this is hard. Grief makes everything harder. But I'm family now. We're family. Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, smiled slightly. Something about that smile felt rehearsed. I'll think about it, I said. They exchanged a look. Quick. Practiced. Miranda's face shifted just slightly. Annoyance, calculation, gone too fast to name. After they left, Derek's Audi throwing gravel, I stood at the kitchen window. My phone rang. Cal Turner, my lawyer for 25 years. Frank, we need to talk about the estate timeline. If Miranda's legally Michael's widow, Arizona law gives her rights. The settlement deadline is April 15th, 4 months. If she contests anything, if there's a legal dispute, you need documentation. Real documentation. Otherwise, the law sides with her. You hearing me? You need proof. Fast. I looked at the flash drive Emily had given me. Turned it over in my palm. Small thing, heavy truth. I'm hearing you, Cal. I walked into Red Creek Diner 3 days later. The bell over the door announced me. Conversation stopped, just for a second. Then resumed, quieter. Miranda sat at the counter, third stool from the left. Pete's daughter, Jenny, serving her coffee. Miranda dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Performance already in progress. Losing Michael was the hardest thing, her voice carried. Meant to. I barely knew Frank before the wedding. Michael and I kept it quiet. Military marriages are like that sometimes. And now Frank's questioning everything. The photos, the documents. It's like he doesn't want to believe his son found love. 3 women at the corner booth nodded, sympathetic. They'd moved to town 2 years ago, didn't know me, didn't know Michael. Pete poured my coffee without speaking. Black, no sugar, same as 40 years. His hand was steady, but his eyes said plenty. I sat, drank. The diner smelled like bacon grease and pancake syrup. The radiator hissed and clanked. Local farm report played low on the radio. Pete leaned close, wiped the counter near my cup. Her hands, he said, barely a whisper. Too soft for ranch work. City hands. You seen her try to move anything? She asked Jenny to carry her coffee to the table yesterday. Said the mug was too hot. I looked at Miranda's hands. Manicured nails, smooth palms, not a callus, not a rope burn. Not a single sign she'd ever worked livestock or mended fence or done anything harder than type. The diner door opened. Cold air rushed in. A man I half recognized, worked at the feed store maybe, looked at me, then away, fast. Pete straightened, spoke normal volume. Anything else with Frank? Just the check. Behind me, someone's voice. Older woman, loud enough. Shame on him. That poor widow. Grief makes people cruel. I left cash on the counter. Walked out. The cold hit immediate and total. My truck was the only one with frost still on the windshield. The county courthouse was marble and tall windows. Built in 1952. Smelled like old paper and floor wax. The heating system banged and clanked through ancient pipes. The clerk's name was Margaret. Known her 15 years. She looked up when I approached. Sympathetic already. Morning, Frank. Need to verify a marriage license. Michael Holloway. Would have been filed August 2020. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. Clicking. Searching. She frowned. Searched again. What date exactly? August 15th. More typing. Her frown deepened. Frank, there's no record. Not in this county. Try statewide. She did. Montana's system was interconnected. Every county reported to the central database. She searched 3 different ways. Shook her head. I'm sorry. There's no marriage license for your son anywhere in Montana. Are you sure about the date? I put the framed wedding photo on the counter. The one Miranda kept on my mantle. She says they married here. Margaret looked at the photo, then at her computer. If they married in Montana, there'd be a record. We don't lose these. We don't make mistakes on something this important. The courthouse door opened behind me. Cal Turner walked in. We'd arranged to meet. He saw my face and knew. Conference room, he said. We walked down the hallway. Our footsteps echoed on marble. The conference room was small. 1 window. Table that had seen 60 years of legal negotiations. Cal closed the door. You didn't find it. It doesn't exist. He sat, pulled out his laptop and a folder. Frank, I've been digging. Derek Nash, registered water rights, broker in 3 states. California, Arizona, Montana. Specializes in agricultural transfers. Those water shares on your property? Worth $400,000. Separate from the land value. Separate from the acreage. Just the water rights themselves. The number sat in the air between us. Miranda's pushing you to sell them fast. Before you understand what they're worth. Before you get independent appraisal. This isn't about family, Frank. It's business. Cold business. I looked out the window. January snow falling light and steady. The street below was quiet. Thursday afternoon, nothing moving. Here's the problem. Cal opened his folder, pulled out documents. Without a marriage license to disprove, the judge will likely accept her documents as presumptive evidence. She's got the photos. She's got witnesses ready to testify. I've heard rumors. She's playing it smart. You need to prove fraud another way, and you need to do it fast. April 15th is the estate settlement deadline. 4 months? How? I don't know yet. Lee pushed the papers toward me. Derek's business registration, water rights valuation, timeline of Miranda's claims. But we start building the case. Careful, methodical, everything documented. The heating pipes clanged, loud. The sound echoed through the old building. Outside, the snow fell heavier. She's using Michael's memory, I said, using his face to rob his father. Cal's expression hardened. Then we make sure it doesn't work. Sarah Chin's office was in the basement of the courthouse. County surveyor for 18 years. Before that, her father held the position. Before him, his father. 3 generations of Chens mapping Montana land. The room smelled like old paper and dust. Sweet, almost. Archive scent. Maps covered every wall, rolled in cubbies, flat and wide drawers framed under glass. Her desk was ordered chaos. Transit equipment in cases, measuring chains coiled precise. A laptop surrounded by documents that predated computers by half a century. She looked up when I knocked, waved me in. Frank Holloway. She stood, shook my hand, firm grip, professional. Cal said you'd be coming. Sit, I sat. The chair was older than me, solid. The heating vent rattled overhead, but the basement stayed cold. She poured coffee from a thermos, handed me a cup. Cal explained the situation. Inheritance dispute, woman claiming to be Michael's widow. No marriage license on record. She pulled up a file on her computer. Miranda Cole filed preliminary estate paperwork 3 weeks ago. I review all property transfers. Part of my job. She turned the screen so I could see legal descriptions, parcel numbers, coordinates that meant nothing to me, but clearly meant everything to her. Here's what's interesting. Her finger traced a line on the document. The legal description she filed? It's wrong. Off by about 200 yards. She's claiming a parcel that includes the old Hendricks place, the land your grandfather bought in 1953. But the property lines she's describing don't match your deed, don't match the county records. Don't match anything. Something in my chest loosened. First time in days. Can you prove that? Already have. She pulled out a map, hand-drawn, faded ink, 1947, in careful script in the corner. Your grandfather's original survey. My grandfather did this work. I'd know his handwriting anywhere. These are the true property lines. 800 acres. Every corner marked with iron stakes. Driven 3 feet deep so they'd last forever. I leaned forward, studied the map, my grandfather's land, my father's land, my land. Lines drawn with precision and care 75 years ago. If ownership is disputed, Sarah said, the court can require a physical property survey. We go out, we find those original markers, we prove the boundaries. Her claim falls apart because she's claiming the wrong ground. So we do that, we survey. Her face shifted, apologetic. She walked to the window, looked out at street level. Snow piled 4 feet high against the building. Frank, those markers are buried under snow right now. 4 feet, maybe more in the drifts. We can't survey in winter, the ground's frozen solid. The equipment won't read properly. And even if it could, we'd never find markers under that much snow. We have to wait for spring thaw. The word hung there. Wait. How long? April. Maybe late March, if we're lucky. But Frank, she turned back. Her expression was certain, confident. Your grandfather's survey was perfect. I've checked his other work in the archives. The man was meticulous. If those markers are where you remember them being, we'll find them. And when we do, her claim dies. The land proves the truth. Can I wait until April? Cal says the estate deadline is April 15th, cutting it close. But if the judge orders a survey, and I think he will once he sees the discrepancy in her paperwork, that deadline extends. We'll have time. I looked at the map again, my grandfather's handwriting. Precise measurements. Property corners marked with coordinates and notes. South parcel corners marked by iron stakes, 3 depth. Permanent. 3 feet deep, still there. Had to be. Spring, I said. Spring, she nodded. The land doesn't lie, Frank. It can't. Your grandfather made sure of that. The military records office was in Helena. 2-hour drive. Cal went with me. We left before dawn. The roads were clear, but the cold was brutal. Wind pushed the truck sideways in open stretches. The office was small, government efficient, fluorescent lights, linoleum floors. A staff sergeant named Morrison handled records requests. Young, professional. Patient with 2 civilians who didn't understand military bureaucracy. Deployment records are archived digitally now, he said, typed on his computer. Michael Holloway. What dates are we looking for? August 2020. He frowned, scrolled, then stopped. Your son was deployed to Afghanistan, 7th month rotation, arrived June 2020, returned stateside February 2021. He turned the screen. Official military document, dates, locations. Unit assignments? Cal leaned forward. Can you confirm he was overseas the entire time, specifically August 15th, 2020? Yes, sir. No leave authorized during that deployment window. He was in country, Kandahar province. Morrison pulled up another document. Flight manifest confirm. He flew out June 8th. Didn't return until February 3rd? The fluorescent lights hummed. Someone's phone rang in another office. The heating vent blew warm air that smelled like dust and old carpet. Miranda's photo. Cal pulled out his phone, showed the wedding picture. This was supposedly taken in Montana, August 15th, 2020. Morrison studied it. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Recognition. Professional recognition of a problem. Sir, that's impossible. Your son wasn't in Montana. Wasn't in the United States? He was 7,000 miles away on active deployment. He turned back to his computer, printed 3 documents, handed them to Cal. Deployment orders, flight manifests, monthly unit roster, all dated, all official. This would hold up in any court. Cal took the papers, reviewed them, handed them to me. Official Department of Defense letterhead, Michael's name. Dates that proved Miranda was lying. Not exaggerating, not misremembering, lying. The wedding couldn't have happened when she said it did. Couldn't have happened where she said it did. Can we get certified copies? Cal asked, already printing them. Morrison stood, walked to a printer in the corner, returned with a folder, embossed seal on every page. These are official military records, metadata included, digital signatures, they're ironclad. Outside, the February wind howled against the building. Inside, the evidence sat in my hands. Proof. Concrete, undeniable. Cal drove back. I watched the landscape pass, snow-covered fields, distant mountains, big sky country. Montana looked the same as it had this morning, but something had shifted. This proves the timeline is impossible, Cal said. She's caught in a direct lie. But Frank, he glanced at me. The judge will want to know if she knew, if it was an innocent mistake or deliberate fraud. We need more. We need to show intent, show conspiracy. How? Keep digging, keep documenting, and wait for April. His hands tightened on the wheel. Truth wins if we're patient enough. The sun was setting when we reached the ranch. Long shadows across snow, cattle in the distance, the house lights on, Miranda's car in the driveway. She was inside my house. Comfortable, confident, believing she'd won. I looked at the folder from Morrison. Official records. Proof Michael wasn't where she said he was. Spring was coming, so was the truth. Miranda filed the emergency petition on a Monday. Cal called me at 6 in the morning. His voice was tight. She's moving fast. 3 witnesses flew in from California. They're claiming they attended the wedding. Sworn affidavits. The hearing is Friday, 4 days. I spent those days checking fence lines. The cold was brutal. 8 below zero. My hands barely worked by the time I got the gloves on. Arthritis from 40 years of ranch work. Fingers stiff. Takes twice as long to do what used to be simple. The fence at the north property line needed repair. Post rotted through. I'd been meaning to fix it since November. Now it couldn't wait. Work gives you something to do when thinking makes it worse. I loaded the truck. New post, barbed wire, tools. Drove out across frozen ground that hadn't thawed since December. The heater in the truck barely worked. My breath fogged the windshield. The post hole digger hit frozen earth and bounced. Jarred my shoulders. 68 years old. Body remembers every fence I've built, every winter I've worked through. The cold makes old injuries ache. Hip, I broke in, 03. Shoulder that never quite healed right from 97. I got the post in, wrapped the wire. Hands shaking by the end. Not from cold, from knowing that winter itself was working against me. 4 feet of snow over those property markers. Ground frozen solid. No way to survey. No way to prove what I knew in my bones to be true. April was still 2 months away. The estate deadline was April 15th. Time and weather and age, all of it working for her. That night, Derek's car was at the ranch when I got home. 3 others parked beside it. California plates. Miranda had said she was having friends visit. Support during a difficult time. I didn't go inside. Stayed in the barn, fed the cattle, listened to them eat. That sound has been the same for 70 years. Steady, reliable. The only thing that doesn't change. Pete called it 8. They're saying you're contesting the estate out of greed, that you don't want to share. Half the town's hearing it. The other half knows better. But Frank, time matters. People forget what they know when the lie gets told enough times. I thanked him, hung up, sat in the barn with the cattle and the cold and the knowledge that she was poisoning everything while I waited for spring. The courthouse was full Friday morning. More people than I'd expected. Some I knew, some I didn't. Miranda sat at the front with her lawyer. Professional. Expensive suit, not local. The 3 witnesses sat behind her. 2 women, 1 man, mid-30s, well-dressed. Looked like they'd stepped out of a California office. Cal sat beside me, had his folder ready. Military records. Deployment manifests. Emily's metadata analysis. Judge Hendricks took the bench. He'd been on the bench 20 years. Fair man, careful. He reviewed the filings in silence. The courtroom heating system clanked and hummed. Mrs. Cole, he looked over his reading glasses, you're petitioning for emergency estate settlement. Yes, Your Honor. Her voice was soft. Grieving widow. Perfect performance. My husband's death was sudden. We were married only 8 months before the accident. I'm trying to settle his affairs so I can begin to heal. But Mr. Holloway is contesting everything. The marriage. The photographs. My right to be here. Mr. Turner, the judge looked at Cal. Your client disputes the marriage? Cal stood. We do, Your Honor. We have evidence the timeline is impossible. Michael Holloway was deployed overseas during the date Mrs. Cole claims they married. We have official military records. I can address that, Miranda's lawyer stood. The marriage date listed was an error. They actually married in July, before deployment. The photographs were from a later ceremony, a celebration after he returned, common in military families. Cal's jaw tightened. Your Honor, there is no marriage license on file anywhere in Montana. We have witnesses who attended the wedding. The lawyer gestured to the three people behind Miranda. They'll testify under oath. Judge Hendricks looked at the witnesses, looked at Cal. Let's hear from them. The first woman took the stand, sworn in, stated her name, Rachel something, said she'd been Miranda's college roommate, described the wedding in detail, small ceremony, private. Michael in uniform. Beautiful day, she cried when she talked about it. Authentic tears. The second witness corroborated. Same details, same emotion. He described the vows, the readings, the reception. All of it matching Miranda's story. Cal cross-examined, asked about specifics, location, time. They had answers for everything. Rehearsed but not obviously. Professional. Then Emily took the stand. Cal's final card. She brought her laptop, showed the metadata, explained the technical analysis. 2 different cameras, 2 different dates, 2 different locations. The photos were digitally combined. Your Honor, she said, her voice steady and clear. These images are fabricated. Michael Holloway and Miranda Cole were never photographed together. These are 2 separate events, merged digitally. I can prove it forensically. The courtroom went silent. The heating pipes banged. Miranda's lawyer stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Thornton is making serious accusations. But the fact remains. 3 witnesses have testified under oath that they attended this wedding. Are we to believe they're all lying? Judge Hendricks studied the laptop screen, studied the witnesses, studied Miranda, who sat with perfect posture, tears on her cheeks. Here's what I see. His voice was measured. Careful. Conflicting evidence, competing claims, questions about documentation. He looked at Cal. Mr. Turner, your client has raised legitimate concerns about timeline and photographs. But Mrs. Cole has produced witnesses. This requires more than he said, she said. Cal stood. We request a physical property survey, Your Honor. Mrs. Cole's estate claim describes property boundaries that don't match the county records. We believe a survey will prove. Granted, the judge made a note. Physical property survey required. But Mr. Turner, he looked up. Survey work can't happen until spring thaw. Weather makes it impossible. And I'm not going to halt estate proceedings indefinitely based on speculation. The word hit like a hammer. Speculation. Pending completion of the property survey, estate settlement will proceed as filed. Mrs. Cole's claim stands. Survey must be completed by April 20th. If it contradicts her claim, we'll revisit. Until then, this court finds in favor of the petitioner. The gavel fell. Outside the courthouse, snow fell heavy and thick. The roads were ice. Spring was 8 weeks away, maybe more. Cal stood beside me on the steps. The survey will prove everything. April 20th. We'll have time. Through the window behind us, I could see Miranda hugging her witnesses, thanking them. They'd be back in California by tonight. Paid actors. Had to be. But I couldn't prove it. The cold cut through my coat. My hip ached, hands barely working. Winter had me trapped just as surely as the legal system. And Miranda knew it. I walked into Red Creek Diner Monday morning. Same as always. Same time. The bell rang. Conversations paused. Then continued. Pete poured coffee before I sat down. Black. No words. The mug was warm against my cold hands. Outside temperature was 6 above. Felt colder. The diner smelled like bacon and coffee and wet wool. The radiator clanked. Someone had tracked snow across the floor, melting into dark puddles. Nora sat 3 stools down. Bank teller for 20 years. She caught my eye. Slid a folded piece of paper across the counter when Pete turned away. Kept her hand on it until I took it. I unfolded it in my lap. Read under the counter edge. Large deposit to M. Cole account, $15K. Wired from CA LLC day before hearing. Thought you should know. N. I looked up. Nodded once. She turned back to her eggs. Witness payment. Had to be. $15,000 to buy testimony. To buy 3 people willing to lie under oath. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. Miranda entered. She saw me. Smiled. Walked over. Frank. She touched my shoulder. Gentle. Concerned. I know Friday was hard, but this is what Michael would have wanted. Family taking care of family. I sipped my coffee, said nothing. Pete, she turned to the counter. Could you help me? My car's blocking the side entrance. I need to move it, but I can't figure out which truck is parked too close. Pete looked out the window. I'll move mine. Give me a second. Actually, could you just hand me that rope? I need to tie down my trunk. The latch is broken. Pete handed her a coil of hemp rope from behind the counter. Standard ranch rope. Everyone in town had some in their truck. Miranda took it, started to loop it. The rough hemp caught her palms. She winced, adjusted her grip, kept trying. After 10 seconds, her hands were red. After 20, she set the rope down. It's rougher than I thought. She laughed. Embarrassed, looked at her palms. I'll just use bungee cords. Her hands were smooth. City soft. The rope had raised welts across both palms. Not blisters yet, but close. Pete watched, said nothing. But his eyes found mine. Ranch hands don't blister from rope. Not after 5 minutes. Not after 5 hours. Rope is daily, normal, like breathing. Miranda left without the rope. The door closed. The bell rang. Cold air dissipated slowly. City hands, Pete said quietly. Picked up the rope, coiled it properly. Can't fake 40 years of fence work. I finished my coffee, left money on the counter, walked out into cold, that bit exposed skin, but something had shifted. Small thing. Pete saw it. Nor saw it. Others would see it too. Spring was still weeks away, but cracks were showing. I found the equipment in the barn that afternoon. Back corner. Under tarps and old furniture. Grandfather's surveying kit. Transit. Measuring chains. Iron stakes. Leather case with brass fittings. Everything oiled and preserved. I opened the case. The transit sat in foam. Brass bright despite 70 years. I lifted it out. Heavy. Precision built. German engineering from before the war. Beside it, a leather journal. Grandfather's handwriting. Survey notes from 1947. Property descriptions. Measurements. Calculations. His script was careful. Methodical. Every line straight. South parcel corners marked by iron stakes. 3 depth. Permanent. North boundary. Follows ridgeline. East and west corners aligned to granite outcrop. Visible landmark. 3 feet deep. Driven to last forever. I sat on an old feed barrel. Read through the journal. Winter light came through the barn gaps. The cattle shifted in their stalls. Their breathing steady. Warm animal smell mixed with hay and old wood. A truck pulled up outside. I heard footsteps. Pastor Jim appeared in the doorway. He'd been our pastor 18 years. Good man. Quiet. Didn't preach at you outside church. Heard about Friday. He walked over, looked at the equipment. Your grandfather's? He homesteaded this place in 47, surveyed every inch himself. Jim picked up one of the iron stakes. 2 feet long, heavy, pointed tip. These last forever. Nah, that was the idea. You going to find them, come spring? I know where they are. Every corner. Grandfather taught my father. Father taught me. Walk the land enough, you know it. You feel it. Jim set the stake down carefully. Truth shows itself in the land, Frank. Always has. Doesn't matter what people say. Doesn't matter what papers claim. Land knows who loved it and who tried to sell it. The barn door creaked, wind pushing through gaps. Outside, the snow had started again. Light. Not the heavy stuff that buried everything, just a dusting. Cal says I need witnesses, I said. Lots of them. Make the survey public. Make the truth visible. How many you need? 20. More, if possible. Jim nodded. Didn't hesitate. I can get you 20. People who know you, know your family, know this land. He paused. Miranda's got witnesses who flew in for money. You've got witnesses who've lived here 40 years. That means something. After he left, I stayed in the barn, studied grandfather's notes, memorized the measurements, the landmarks, the corners, south parcel, 20 paces south of the lone oak. 3 feet down, iron stake driven straight, northwest corner aligned with granite outcrop, visible from half a mile, permanent marker, east boundary, follows natural ridgeline. Stakes every quarter mile. I'd walked those lines 1,000 times. Knew every tree, every rock, every rise and fall. The land was in my bones the way it had been in grandfather's bones. Spring thaw would expose it all, the truth buried under 4 feet of snow, waiting. My phone buzzed. Text from Cal. Survey date set, April 18th. Judge's clerk will observe. Make it count, April 18th. 7 weeks away, the longest 7 weeks of my life. I looked at the transit, at grandfather's journal, at the iron stakes that would prove everything. Miranda thought she'd won, thought winter had me beaten, thought I'd surrender or die waiting. She didn't understand that waiting is what ranchers do. You wait for spring, for calving season, for the right weather to plant, for the right moment to act. I was good at waiting, and I was very good at remembering where things were buried. The social media posts started Tuesday. I didn't see them until Pete showed me his phone at the diner. Grieving widow seeks peace. Cruel father-in-law contests everything. Some people can't let go. Justice for Miranda. Photos of her at Michael's grave, flowers in her hands, tears on her face. Professional quality, staged. The comments were worse. People I'd never met calling me greedy, calling me heartless, saying I should be ashamed, saying Michael would be disgusted. It's all over town. Pete refilled my coffee. The feed store, the post office. She's telling everyone you're contesting the estate out of greed, that you never accepted her, never gave her a chance. By Wednesday, the looks had changed. At the feed store, Tom Anders, known him 15 years, turned away when I walked in. Didn't meet my eyes. The clerk was new, young, maybe 25. She asked if I needed help finding anything, voice cold, professional distance. I bought fencing supplies, loaded them myself. No one offered to help. No one spoke. At the post office, 2 women stopped talking when I entered. One was Alice Morrison, moved here 3 years ago from Billings. She looked at me, then at her friend, whispered something. They both left while I was at the counter. The younger residents didn't know me, didn't know my history, didn't know 40 years of my life here. They knew what they saw online. A young widow, an old man refusing to let go. Thursday night, Pete called. She's winning the story, Frank. You need to fight back, publicly, or this town turns on you completely. I hung up, sat in my office. The house was quiet, too quiet. Miranda had moved into town 2 weeks ago, rented a place near the courthouse, said she needed space. The house felt empty without her presence, which was strange. I hadn't wanted her here, but the emptiness felt wrong too. Outside, the temperature was rising. 38 degrees, fall spring, the kind that makes you think winter's over. Then it freezes again and kills everything that started growing. Friday afternoon, I called Sarah, then Cal, then Pastor Jim. By evening, I'd made 23 calls. Saturday morning, I opened the diner early. Pete let me in at 7. We set up chairs, pushed tables together, made coffee in the big urn usually reserved for church functions. They arrived in 1s and 2s. Pastor Jim first, then Nora, Cal, Sarah, Pete's wife, Jenny. Old-timers who'd known my father, known my grandfather, people who'd watched me grow up on this land. By 8, there were 24 people in the diner. Not everyone I'd called, but enough. I stood. The room went quiet. Coffee steam rose from 24 cups. Outside, early morning light. The snow was melting in patches, brown earth showing through, mud season starting. You've all heard what's being said about me. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. I'm not here to defend myself. You either know me or you don't. 40 years speak louder than I can. Heads nodded. No one interrupted. Miranda Cole claims to be Michael's widow. I have evidence she's lying. Photographic forensics, military deployment records, missing marriage license. But the court wants physical proof, a property survey. April 18th, 6 weeks from now. Sarah stood, walked to the front, unrolled a map on the table, the old one. Grandfather's 1947 survey. This is the original property documentation, albeit. Her voice carried. Professional, certain. Frank's grandfather placed iron stakes at every corner, 3 feet deep, permanent markers. If we find them, when we find them, they'll prove the true property boundaries, and they'll prove Miranda's estate claim describes the wrong parcel entirely. How do we help? Pastor Jim asked. Witness. I looked at each face. The survey needs to be public. Official. I need 20 people minimum to observe, to testify if necessary, to see the truth when it's uncovered. You want us to stand there and watch you dig? Tom Anders had come in late, stood in the doorway. He'd avoided me all week, but he was here now. I want you to see Miranda answer questions about the land. See if she knows the property, see if she can use survey equipment, see if her hands can handle the work. I paused. See if she knows what she's claiming to own. Understanding moved through the room. Quick. Certain. Sarah spoke again. Public witness survey carries enormous legal weight. The judge's clerk will be there. Official observer. But community witnesses, people who know this land, know this family, that becomes part of the record. It's not just Frank's word anymore. It's all of yours. She'll have to demonstrate competence, Cal added. Answer basic questions, identify landmarks, operate equipment. If she can't, if she fails publicly, her claim collapses, and everyone sees it happen. And the trap was clear now, visible, beautiful in its simplicity. Force her onto the land she claimed to know, in front of witnesses who actually knew it. Let her ignorance expose itself. Nora raised her hand. I'm in. Me too. Pastor Jim. Count on me. Tom Anders. Still in the doorway, still uncertain. But there. One by one they committed. 26 people total by the time we finished. More than I needed. More than I'd hoped for. Outside, the mud was deeper, the snow melting faster. False spring or real spring didn't matter. Movement was happening. Thaw was coming. Sarah rolled up the map, looked at me. April 18th. Bring your grandfather's equipment. I'll bring mine. We'll find those markers, Frank, and when we do, everyone will see. She smiled, small, confident. Your grandfather's survey was perfect, 3 feet down, exactly where you say. And Miranda won't know north from south. The cemetery was on the east edge of town. 73 graves, small, rural, headstones dating back to 1891. My parents were here. Grandparents, great-grandparents, Holloways all the way down. Michael's stone was granite. Simple. Just his name and dates. 26 years? Not enough time? I stood there late March afternoon. The snow was mostly gone. Patches remained in shadows. The ground was soft. Mud season. Everything thawing. Water running in small streams between graves. The stone was cold under my hand. Still holding winter. 2 months since Miranda had shown up. 2 months of fighting. Of watching my town divide. Of being called cruel, greedy, heartless. 2 months of waiting for spring while she poisoned everything I'd built in 40 years. For what? 800 acres? Water rights? Money? Michael wouldn't have cared about any of it. I sat on the wet ground. Didn't care about the cold. The mud. My pants would be soaked. Didn't matter. I don't know if this is right. My voice was quiet. Talking to stone. Talking to memory. Fighting her. Tearing the town apart. Making everything ugly. A meadowlark called. First one I'd heard this year. Early. Tentative. Testing if spring was real. She says you married her. Says you loved her. And maybe surrender would be easier. Let her have it. Let her win. Move to town. Let the ranch go. Let the legacy go. Just stop fighting. The wind moved through bare branches. Cold. Not winter cold. But not warm yet either. Except she's using you. Using your face. Your memory. Your death. She's lying about who you were. What you wanted. She's making you into a story that never happened. The tears came then. First time since the funeral. Hot against cold wind. You were honest. You were decent. You didn't lie. You didn't cheat. You worked hard, and you treated people fair, and you deserved better than being turned into a prop for a con. I touched the headstone. Traced his name. Michael James Holloway. Surrendering wouldn't honor you. Wouldn't protect your memory. It would let her keep lying about who you were. Keep using your face to steal from your father. The meadowlark called again. Closer this time. I looked up. Saw it on the fence post. Yellow breast. Black V. Beautiful. Spring was coming, whether I was ready or not. So I'm going to finish this. I'm going to find those markers. I'm going to prove she never knew you, never married you, never loved you. I'm going to protect what you would have protected if you were still here. I stood. My hip ached. My knees protested. 68 years old. Too old for sitting in mud. Too old for a lot of things. But not too old for this. I drove past Miranda's rental on the way out of town. The lights were on. Laughter inside. Derek's car in the driveway. Music playing. Loud enough to hear through closed windows. No grief there, just greed. Sarah met me at the ranch Thursday morning, April 15th. Exactly 4 months since Miranda had first shown up. The estate deadline, the court date, the day Cal had warned me about back in January. We walked the property lines. The ground was soft, but not muddy. The temperature was 52. The sun was warm, real warm. Not false spring, the real thing. Tomorrow, Sarah said. April 18th, survey day. The grass was greening, not fully, but starting. That first flush of color that means winter is finally over. Show me where they are. She had a notebook. Pen ready. We walked to the south parcel. The lone oak was there. Grandfather had used it as a landmark. 100 years old, maybe more, permanent. 20 paces south. I walked it, slow, careful. Each step deliberate. Here, 3 feet down, iron stake driven straight. She marked it in her notes. GPS coordinates, description, landmarks. We walked to the northwest corner. The granite outcrop was visible from half a mile away. Gray stone pushing through earth. Ancient. Unmovable. Aligned with the outcrop, I sighted along the line. Pointed. There, same depth. She marked it. We did this for each corner. Each boundary marker. 4 hours of walking, measuring, remembering. You're certain? She asked at the end. We stood on the ridge overlooking the whole property. 800 acres rolling away to the horizon. I'm certain. Because tomorrow, 26 people will be watching. The judge's clerk, Miranda, Derek. If the markers aren't there, they're there. My grandfather didn't make mistakes, and I've walked these lines 1,000 times. She studied me, then nodded. Okay. She pulled out her transit case, grandfather's equipment. She'd borrowed it 3 days ago, cleaned it, calibrated it. I tested this yesterday. It's perfect. 75 years old, and the precision is flawless. German engineering. She set it up, sighted along a property line, made notes. The brass gleamed in afternoon sun. Tomorrow, Miranda will have to answer questions, Sarah said. Which direction is true north? What's this pasture called? Where are the boundary corners? Can she operate the equipment? She can't. I know, Sarah smiled, small, satisfied. That's the point. 26 witnesses will see her fail, will see you succeed, will see the truth. A calf bawled in the distance. New life. Spring calving had started. 3 births this week. Healthy. Strong. Cal's truck pulled up. He got out, walked over, handed me a folder. Witness list official. Filed with the court. 26 names. Judge's clerk confirmed. She'll observe. Everything's documented. And he looked at the property spreading below us. This is it, Frank. Tomorrow the land proves everything. What about Miranda's lawyer? I asked. He'll be there. Probably try to discredit the survey. Call it theatrics. But he can't argue with iron stakes driven 75 years ago. Can't argue with coordinates that match the 1947 documentation exactly. Sarah packed up the transit. Get some sleep tonight. Tomorrow starts at 8. We'll begin at the south parcel, work our way around. Should take 4 hours, maybe 5 if we have to dig deep. After they left, I stood on the ridge alone. The sun was setting, gold light across green hills. The cattle were settling for the night. The barn door creaked in the breeze. Tomorrow, everything would end or everything would continue. No middle ground. I walked to the barn, found the iron stakes, heavy, cold, solid, 12 of them. Grandfather had driven them in 1947. They'd been here longer than I'd been alive. Would be here long after I was gone. I loaded them in the truck. Tomorrow Sarah would drive new ones beside the old ones. Mark the true boundaries. Prove the true property lines. The land doesn't lie. People do. Tomorrow everyone would see which was which. April 18th came warm. 58 degrees by 8 in the morning. Clear sky, no wind. The kind of spring day that makes you forget winter ever happened. They gathered at the ranch. 26 witnesses, Sarah's truck, Cal's car, Pastor Jim's van carrying 6 people, the judge's clerk in her county vehicle, official observer, everything legal, everything documented. Miranda arrived with Derek and her lawyer. They parked away from the others, stayed separate. Her face was composed, confident. She wore jeans and boots, looked the part. City costume, pretending to be ranch ready. Sarah set up at the south parcel. The lone oak stood where it had stood for 100 years, grandfather's landmark, permanent and true. She assembled the transit, grandfather's equipment, brass gleaming in morning sun. The witnesses formed a loose circle, watching, waiting. Cal had a video camera, 2 cameras actually, one on a tripod, official record, one handheld for detail shots. Sarah looked at Miranda. Professional, neutral. Mrs. Cole, can you tell us which direction is true north? Miranda smiled, gestured vaguely toward the mountains. That way? That's west. Sarah's voice was flat, factual. True north is there. She pointed 90 degrees away. A murmur through the witnesses, quiet, but there. What's this pasture called? Sarah continued. The south pasture. This is what your estate claim lists as north grazing section. Sarah consulted her notes. Can you identify the property corners from here? Miranda looked around. The land rolled away in all directions, green and endless. She pointed toward a fence line. There? That's the Hendricks property, half a mile west. Sarah made a note. The questions continued. Basic things, simple things, things anyone who'd lived on this land would know. Miranda failed every one. Can you operate a transit? Sarah gestured to the equipment. I've never used one. Can you measure distance with a surveyor's chain? No. Can you identify this tree species? Sarah pointed to the oak. Miranda hesitated. Oak? Correct. Sarah made a note. First right answer. Pete Donovan laughed. Quiet, but others heard. The witnesses were seeing it, watching her ignorance expose itself in real time. Mrs. Cole, please handle this rope. Sarah pulled out hemp rope. Standard ranch rope. The same kind Miranda had failed with at the diner. Miranda took it, started to coil it. Within seconds her palms were red. She adjusted her grip, kept trying. The rough hemp abraded soft skin, city hands that had never worked fence. Never tied down loads. Never done anything harder than type. After 30 seconds, she set the rope down. I don't see what this has to do with property boundaries. It demonstrates familiarity with ranch work. Sarah's voice was patient, educational. The estate claim states you lived and worked on this property with your husband. But your hands show no evidence of ranch labor. No calluses, no scars, no rope burns. Miranda's lawyer stepped forward. This is harassment. Mrs. Cole's competence isn't on trial here. Actually it is, Cal said. Her claim requires proof of occupancy and knowledge. She's provided neither. Sarah turned to me. Frank, show us where your grandfather placed the first marker. I walked from the oak, 20 paces south, counted them aloud, slow and deliberate. Each step placed with certainty. This was land I'd walked 1,000 times. Here. I stopped. 3 feet down, iron stake, driven 1947. Sarah brought the probe. Long metal rod with a handle. She positioned it, started pushing into soft earth. The witnesses moved closer. Circle tightening. Everyone watching. 1 foot down. The probe slid easy through soil still damp from snowmelt. 2 feet down. Resistance. But not metal. Just packed earth. Sarah adjusted. Tried 6 inches east. Pushed again. 2.5 feet. 3 feet. Metal rang against metal. Clear. Unmistakable. The sound carried in morning air. The witnesses gasped. Audible. Real. Sarah looked up at me. Then at the circle of faces. Iron stake. Exactly 3 feet down. Exactly where Frank said. She pulled the probe out. Handed me a shovel. Show us. I dug. The earth was soft. Easy work. In spring thaw. 6 inches down. 12. 24. 36. The iron stake appeared. 2 feet long. Square cross-section, hand-forged. Hammered into the earth 75 years ago by a man who believed in permanence. I pulled it free. Held it up. The witnesses pressed forward, touched it, felt the weight, the rust, the absolute reality of it. Permanent marker, Sarah said. 1947, grandfather's survey. Perfect placement. Miranda's face had drained of color. Her lawyer whispered to her, fast, urgent. Northwest corner, Sarah said. Lead the way, Frank. We walked. All of us. 26 witnesses. Officials, lawyers, Miranda and Derek trailing behind. A procession across land that knew who loved it. The granite outcrop was exactly where it had always been. Ancient stone, gray and permanent. I sighted along the line, pointed. There, aligned with the outcrop, same depth. Sarah set up the transit, confirmed the angle, the precision, then drove the probe. 3 feet down, metal on metal, same clear ring. I dug, found the stake, pulled it free, identical to the first, hand-forged iron, 75 years in the ground. Pastor Jim touched the stake, looked at me, nodded, no words needed. We found the third marker at the east boundary, then the fourth, each one exactly where I'd said, each one exactly 3 feet down, each one perfectly aligned with grandfather's measurements. Sarah took readings with the transit, modern GPS, everything. The measurements matched the 1947 survey to the inch. 75 years, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. And the precision is perfect. Your grandfather's work was flawless. She turned to Miranda. Mrs. Cole, your estate claim describes these boundaries. She showed the paperwork. But according to these coordinates, your claim is for land 200 yards west, the old Hendricks place. You're claiming the wrong parcel entirely. The lawyer grabbed the papers, studied them. His face went tight. That's impossible. The legal description is wrong, Sarah said. Deliberately or through ignorance, I don't know. But these markers prove the true property lines. And they prove Mrs. Cole's claim doesn't match the actual Holloway property. Derek started walking toward his car, casual, not running, just backing away. Mr. Nash? Cal's voice was sharp. I wouldn't leave yet. Sheriff's on his way. Derek stopped. The witnesses were talking now. Quiet conversations, affirmations. I heard Tom Anders say to his wife, known Frank 40 years, never seen him wrong about this land. Not once. And the sheriff arrived 20 minutes later. 2 deputies with him. They'd been waiting at the road. Cal's coordination. Miranda Cole? Sheriff Davidson approached. Professional, calm. You're under arrest for inheritance fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to defraud. Derek Nash, same charges. Miranda's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. I have witnesses. I have documents. You have paid actors and forged paperwork, Cal said. We've got bank records showing $15,000 payments to your California witnesses. We've got photographic forensics proving the wedding images were digitally fabricated. We've got military records proving your timeline is impossible. And now we've got a property survey proving you don't even know what land you're claiming. The handcuffs clicked. Miranda stared at me, cold, all pretense gone. You'll die alone in this place, old man. I looked at her, felt nothing, no anger, no triumph, just tired. But it'll be my place, I said, and my son's memory stays clean. Derek was cuffed next. He didn't speak, just stared at the ground while the deputy read him his rights. They were loaded into separate patrol cars, driven away. The witnesses watched in silence. Then slowly they approached, one by one. Pete shook my hand. Never doubted you, Frank. Nora hugged me. Your father would be proud. Tom Anders gripped my shoulder. I'm sorry I wavered. Shouldn't have. You're here now, I said. That's what matters. Pastor Jim was last. The land doesn't lie. Never has. The judge's clerk finished her documentation. Official photographs, measurements, witness statements, everything legal, everything recorded. By noon, everyone had left. Just Sarah and me standing at the south parcel. The iron stakes lay in the truck bed. Evidence. Proof. Truth. Your grandfather was a master surveyor, Sarah said. This work is perfect. Most surveyors today couldn't match this precision with modern equipment. He believed in permanence, what I said. Built things to last. She packed up the transit, handed me the case. This belongs to your family? Keep it safe? The meadowlarks were singing. Full spring symphony, the grass was green, the cattle were grazing. New calves followed their mothers on unsteady legs. Everything the same as it had been 4 months ago, but different, lighter somehow. I stood on the ridge and watched Sarah's truck disappear down the road. Dust settling behind her, then just silence, land, sky, peace. Michael's grave was visible from here. Yellow daffodils blooming, spring flowers against gray stone. I'd kept it clean, kept his memory honest, kept the truth. That was all a father could do. The courthouse steps were crowded Tuesday morning. Media, curious townspeople. Miranda's lawyer looking diminished, defeated. Judge Hendricks reviewed the evidence in his chambers first. Sarah's survey documentation. Cal's forensic analysis. The bank records showing witness payments. Military deployment records. Emily's photographic metadata. The iron stakes themselves, laid out on a table like artifacts. When he took the bench at 10, his expression was severe. This court has reviewed the complete evidence presented in the matter of the Holloway estate dispute. The physical property survey conducted April 18th, observed by 26 witnesses and this court's official clerk, has conclusively demonstrated that the property claim filed by Miranda Cole describes land 200 yards west of the actual Holloway property. His voice carried through the packed courtroom. Official. Final. Furthermore, photographic forensics prove that wedding images presented as evidence were digitally fabricated. Military records prove the timeline claimed is physically impossible. Bank records prove witness testimony was purchased. This court finds clear and convincing evidence of inheritance fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. He looked directly at where Miranda would have sat. Empty chair. She was in county lockup. All claims by Miranda Cole against the Holloway estate are hereby dismissed with prejudice. The property, including all water rights and acreage, is confirmed as the sole property of Franklin Holloway. A state settlement deadline is vacated. Mr. Holloway, the land is yours. It always was. The gavel fell. The sound echoed. Final. Absolute. People approached afterward. Some I knew, some I didn't. Apologizing. Congratulating. Trying to be on the right side now that the right side was clear. Alice Morrison was there. The woman who'd whispered about me at the post office. Mr. Holloway, I'm so sorry. I should have known better. Should have trusted what everyone said about your character. It's fine, I said. Not because it was. Because what else do you say? Tom Anders shook my hand. 40 years I've known you. Should never have doubted. Not even for a second. You were there when it mattered, I told him. That's what I'll remember. The clerk who'd been cold at the feed store approached, young, embarrassed. I'm really sorry, sir. I believed what I heard. I should have learned about you before judging. She was maybe 25. New to town, new to life, maybe. You didn't know, I said. Now you do. Cal found me on the courthouse steps, handed me a folder, heavy, official seals on every page. Deed confirmation, water rights certificate, estate settlement finalized, everything documented. He smiled, tired but satisfied. 800 acres secured, 400,000 in water rights, protected, legal in perpetuity. Your grandfather's legacy is intact. I took the folder, felt the weight, not just paper, everything it represented. 3 generations. 75 years, legacy. What happens to Miranda and Derek? I asked. Felony charges? Multiple counts? Derek's already cooperating. Gave up the whole scheme. Agricultural company wanted your water rights for development. They approached him. He found Miranda, professional artist. Done this before in California. Arizona, this was supposed to be easy. Old widower, vulnerable. Quick score. How long? 5 to 7 years, maybe more with the conspiracy charges. Cal put his hand on my shoulder. It's over, Frank. You won. I looked at the folder, at the courthouse, at the people milling around, talking, processing, moving on already. Doesn't feel like winning, I said. Never does, Cal said. Feels like not losing. That's different. I drove past Red Creek Diner on the way out of town. The parking lot was full. Trucks, cars, everyone gathered. Through the window, I could see them. Pete at the counter, Pastor Jim, Nora, Sarah, others. Celebrating probably. Or at least relieving the tension of 4 months. I slowed. Almost pulled in. Pete saw me through the window, waved, gestured to come inside. I waved back. Kept driving. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. This wasn't a celebration. Just a correction. Just getting back to where things should have been all along. The ranch appeared as I crested the hill. 800 acres rolling away to the horizon. Green now. Full spring, the cattle were grazing. Red bodies against green grass, calves running, playing. New life. I parked by the barn, sat in the truck for a moment. The engine ticked as it cooled. A meadowlark sang from the fence post. The wind moved through new leaves, soft, warm, spring wind, not winter. The iron stakes were still in the truck bed. I'd bring them inside tomorrow. Put them with grandfather's equipment, evidence, history, proof. I walked to the ridge. The same place I'd stood with Sarah before the survey. Before the truth came out. Before everything ended or continued. Turned out it continued. The sun was setting. Gold light across the land. Long shadows. The kind of light photographers love. The kind that makes everything look like a painting. Below, the south pasture. The lone oak. The place where we'd found the first marker. The place where everything had proven true. I thought about Miranda in a cell. Derek cooperating to reduce his sentence. The lawyer driving back to wherever he'd come from. All of them moving on to their next thing, their next scheme, their next life. And me here, where I'd always been, where I'd always be. Was that winning or just surviving? I pulled grandfather's journal from my pocket. I'd been carrying it since the survey. His handwriting, his measurements, his certainty. The last entry was dated November 1947, right before winter, right after he'd finished the survey. South parcel corners, marked by iron stakes, 3 depth. Permanent. This land endures. Truth endures. Family endures. Built this for my son. He'll build for his son. Legacy isn't what you own. It's what you protect. H. Holloway. I read it twice. Then closed the journal, held it against my chest. He'd built for my father. Father had built for me. I'd protected for Michael. Even though Michael was gone, even though the legacy had no one left to pass to. But maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was the protecting itself, the refusing to surrender, the standing firm when everything said to bend. A calf bawled in the distance. The mother answered. That sound, ancient, constant, the sound of life continuing regardless of human drama. I walked down to the south pasture, to the oak, to the place where the first marker had been. Sarah had driven a new stake beside the old one, bright metal next to rusted iron. Past meeting present, I touched both. The old one was rough, pitted, 75 years of weather and earth. The new one was smooth, painted, modern survey marker, but they both said the same thing. This land is Holloway land, was, is, will be. The sunset deepened. Orange now, red at the edges. The temperature was dropping, not cold, just cool, spring evening cool, the good kind. I thought about Michael, about visiting his grave tomorrow, telling him it was over, the land was safe. His memory was protected. No one was using his face anymore. No one was lying about who he was. Would he care? Would he understand? Maybe, maybe not. The dead don't worry about property lines, about water rights, about legacy. But the living do, and I was still living, still here. Still responsible for protecting what 3 generations had built. My phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Congratulations, you earned this. Get some rest. Then Pete. Coffee tomorrow? On the house, forever. Then Cal. Well done, my friend, well done. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. Tomorrow I would. Tomorrow I'd go to the diner. Shake hands. Accept congratulations. Be gracious. Be normal. But tonight, I needed to be here. Alone. On the land. Listening to it breathe. Because the land had saved me. Not the lawyer. Not the evidence. Not the witnesses. The land itself. By being exactly what it was. By holding grandfather's markers exactly where he'd placed them. By refusing to lie, even when humans did nothing but. The meadowlark sang again. Evening song. Different from morning, softer, more contemplative. I looked at the horizon, at the hills rolling away, at the sky turning purple, at the first stars appearing. Miranda had said I'd die alone in this place. She was probably right, but it would be my place, my land, my legacy. And there were worse ways to die than on ground your grandfather homesteaded, ground your father worked, ground you protected. Some victories don't come with parades, don't come with celebration, don't even come with satisfaction. They just come with the quiet knowledge that you did what needed doing. Protected what needed protecting, stood firm when standing firm was all you had left. I walked back to the house. The lights were off, the rooms were empty. Just me in the silence and the knowledge that tomorrow the sun would rise, and the cattle would need feeding, and the fence would need checking, and life would continue exactly as it had for 75 years. Spring had come. The truth had come with it, and I was still here. That was enough. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The thermometer read 62 degrees. May morning, warm already. The meadowlarks were singing full symphony now, not tentative like March, confident. Spring was here and staying. The cattle grazed the south pasture. 23 new calves this season, healthy, strong, 1 set of twins, always a good sign. The grass was thick, green rolling away to the horizon, Montana spring, the kind that makes you forget winter ever happened, the kind that lies. I'd replanted the daffodils on Michael's grave last week. The old ones had finished blooming. These would come back next April, yellow against gray stone, year after year, as long as someone tended them. Sarah had stopped by yesterday, brought coffee from the diner. We'd sat on the same porch and talked about nothing important. Fence repairs, weather patterns, survey work she had coming up in June. Easy conversation, no weight to it. She'd extended her survey contract with the county, said she liked the work here, liked the precision required, said maybe she'd stay. We'd see. The prosecutor called Tuesday. Miranda pleaded guilty, took a deal, 6 years. Derek got 4 for cooperating. The agricultural company paid a fine. No admission of wrongdoing, just money. That's how it works. I didn't ask for details. Didn't matter. They were gone. The land was mine. That was the only fact that counted. People in town were friendly again. Tom Anders helped me repair the north fence last week. Didn't mention the winter. Didn't apologize again. Just worked. That was better than words. Pete still gave me free coffee. I still paid anyway. Left cash on the counter. Some things don't need to change. The ranch was quiet. Just me and the cattle and the land, the way it had been before Miranda. The way it would be after I was gone. Land doesn't care about human drama. Doesn't care who owns the deed. It just endures. Grandfather's transit sat on the table beside me. I'd cleaned it after the survey. Oiled the brass. Packed it, careful in its case. Sarah said I should donate it to the county museum. Historical artifact. Evidence of Montana homesteading. Maybe someday. Not yet. Still needed it too much. Reminder that precision matters. That truth can be measured. That some things last if you build them right. The sun cleared the ridge. Warm on my face. On my hands wrapped around the coffee cup. Old hands. Weathered. Scarred from fence work and cattle and 70 winters. But still working. Still capable. Miranda had been right about one thing. I'd probably die alone in this place. But alone isn't the same as lonely. Alone is having space to breathe. Is morning coffee without performance. Is work that needs doing without anyone watching. Is land that knows your footsteps and answers to your touch. Some people need crowds. Need noise. Need constant proof they matter. I needed this. 800 acres. Spring mornings. Cattle calling. Meadowlarks singing. The truth held permanent in iron stakes 3 feet down. They'd thought silence was surrender. Thought waiting was weakness. Thought an old man alone would break rather than bend. They'd been wrong about all of it. I stood, stretched, my hip protested. My shoulder reminded me it was 68 years old. My body was a map of every year I'd lived on this land. Every fence built, every winter survived, every truth protected. Chores were waiting, fence to check, cattle to count, water troughs to fill. Same work as yesterday, same as tomorrow. Same as 75 years ago when grandfather first drove those stakes. Legacy isn't what you own, it's what you protect. He'd written that in 1947, still true in 2024. I walked toward the barn. The meadowlarks followed overhead. The grass was soft underfoot. The air smelled like new growth and warm earth and coffee and cattle and home. Some victories don't feel like winning, they just feel like breathing again. And that morning, I could breathe just fine.